Hey there, how you going? That was my pre-release kit from yesterday's Edge of Eternities pre-release, and let me tell you, the experience was peak. I mean, I got to play with some cool cards here like Cryogen Relic and Sturgian Dirgecraft. These cards were absolute all-stars. And I even pulled a pretty good card with Starfield Vocalist. So immediately I figured I want to build a deck based on my pre-release kit. Unfortunately, there is only one option as commander. And not just that I pulled this as the only option, there is only one option. And that is Alpharael Dreaming Acolyte, which is honestly a terrible commander. However, we're going to give it a shot because I had such a good time and I think this will be a fun deck building challenge. So one thing I like to do when I'm building these decks based on my pre-release kits or my pre-release decks is to make sure I use every card that was in there. So this artificially forces me to eat up more slots that I'd use to put like the standard staples in blue or black or colorless, and it gives me the same feel that I had when I played that pre-release event. So we have cards that are pretty bad, like our commander here, Alpharael Dreaming Acolyte. We also have pretty good cards like Dubious Delicacy. This is like a fine card for commander. And we also get really good cards like this Sacrifice Outlet, Umbral Caller Zealot, which is fantastic. We get awesome cards like Cryogen Relic and Starfield Vocalist. So while this doesn't preclude me from using cards that I didn't pull in my kit, I have to use the cards that were pulled here. So as I look at Alpharael, I'm thinking this is going to be a Void deck, obviously, using the Void mechanic. And also we're going to be wanting to abuse ETB triggers. We're going to be able to use Alpharael over and over again so that we can get some kind of value. We also probably want some kind of graveyard synergy since we're going to be sending a bunch of stuff to the graveyard. And I don't think we're going to focus on Alpharael having Death Touch during my turn too much, but we'll see. Anyway, let's get to building. Okay, so for the Alpharael deck list, I figured out what I want to do. I'm going to make a functional upgrade to the Warhammer 40k Precon, basically just adding blue and adding a commander with a little bit of card draw staple to him in the command zone. I think this is the best thing to do with Alpharael because honestly, like, the commander's not very good. It has a one-time ETB and a static ability that's not fantastic, but by leaning into the ETB of discarding an artifact and just remembering that the Necrons also just want to go to the graveyard, we can kind of build something a little more synergistic in there. Plus blue, the addition of blue to the Necrons Precon adds all of the artifact support that, you know, they didn't get because they were mono black, and we get to use all 13 of our pre-release cards in the deck, and that's pretty good. They all sort of function. There are a couple of outliers that are just like there because of rule stipulations, but mostly this is a very, very functional deck actually, and I think a much better Necron Precon than Necron Precon once was. So let's jump into the upgrades. So as we go down the list of the deck, the first card we see is Tezzeret, Master of the Bridges. This card's great. It's going to gain us back some life. It's going to find us an artifact in our graveyard, and it's going to spill a bunch of artifacts from our deck onto the battlefield, making huge problems for our opponent. We love to see it. Plus it's Tezzeret, and I know this wasn't the Tezzeret from Edge of Eternities, but now we have a Tezzeret in the deck, and it feels more thematically complete to me. Then we have Anuraka the Traveler. Now we have a card that allows us to get a little bit more graveyard synergies going and let us play some of our artifacts, our more expensive artifacts, from our hand and our graveyard by paying life. Then we have Canoptic Scarab Swarm, which I think is going to be a fantastic card for us. We are running some affinity related things, so having a huge artifact count is going to be very good. Then we have Canoptic Spider. Artifact creature ETB draw card is just very good, especially in this deck. Canoptic Tomb Sentinel. A lot of the cards that say Unearth in the Necrons Precons are going to be in here, whether they're good or not. I think this card is okay, but I do like the way it feels as I play tested this deck, and I think that it's good enough. But being able to exile a thing is just good. Chronomancer. Card draw, it has an earth, so we'll be able to use it again at least once. Cryptek, it's going to allow us to like Gaia's ghost form some of our stuff, which is pretty good. Displacer Kitten, we'll be able to use this to flicker our commander over and over and hopefully draw a bunch of cards, put a bunch of the artifacts we want to put in the graveyard, and just keep doing that. That is all Displace Your Kittens in here for. We have a couple cards that are like that as well. Emery, Lurk of the Lock. So this is a card that would have been a very good upgrade to the Necron precon if you were allowed to use blue. However, you were not, so I'm glad to finally put this one in the deck with them. Same thing with Ethereum Sculptor. Make those artifacts cost less. The same thing with Foundry Inspector. We just want to get these cards cost down so we can cast them over and over again. Hexmark Destroyer. I think this card is cool, and it does have Unearth, so we'll be able to use it twice at least. Hole Carver, we had to throw this in the deck because it was part of my pre-release kit. It's an artifact though, so that's, you know, it's a black artifact, so it has some synergies there. Illuminated Stairs, I love this card. I run this card in my Greasefang deck. It is a all-star in that deck, but yeah, just being able to sack our things, put them back in the graveyard, and get a bunch of mana for them to cast something else is very good. Imhotep, the Swarm Lord. I mean, it was the Necron's backup commander, and for good reason. This card is very good. Lynch Guard, being able to return all our legendary creatures from the graveyard to our hand is good, especially if we lose Alpharael, Emery. There'll be a couple of other legendary creatures in here that we won't be able to get back with our normal artifact means, so this card's very good for that. Monolith Sentry, it was one of the cards that we had to add, but again, it's an artifact, it's a black artifact creature, so at least it has some synergy there. Plus, it's a 4/1. That's pretty good, even if we can't attack with it. Mouth of the Storm. This one is another one of the cards that we had to add because of the pre-release kit. I think this is objectively a bad card in this deck, but I would feel I would be cheating if I didn't put it in here. And a lot of these cards that we have to have for the pre-release kit, I will put cards in the sideboard that you can replace them out with if you are interested in running like a real functional deck. Necron Deathmark. It's a Necron. It has a good ETB trigger, and it puts cards in our graveyard. That's all we care about. Royal Warden. It's going to give us some creatures, going to give us some bodies, and it has Unearth. Scorpic Lord. It's good. It buffs our artifact creatures and gives them menace, and as on Earth. Starfield Vocalist. This was for my pre-release kit, but I would have added this anyway because a Panharmonicon on a body is great. A Panharmonicon you can sort of use twice is even better. I genuinely love this card. Cesaric, the Silent King. It mills and it gets us cards back from the graveyard to our hand if we need them, so that's pretty good. Technomancer, one of our finishers. Hopefully we can dump a bunch of impactful artifacts in the grave or one other large impactful artifact in the grave, cast this and get it back, and that would be real good. That's the Deep Dwelling. It allows us to reuse Alpharael's ETB trigger at least once a turn, so that's very good. The Warring Triad, it's a mana rock like 90% of the time, but it also mills us a card, so that's just pretty good. And sometimes it's a creature that attacks for like, 5, and that's not bad. Trezin the Infinite. This is the Necron commander that I saw a lot of people actually use in their deck because like being able to use all of the effects of all the Necrons is very good. And this is even better now because we're able to put some other cards in there besides just the Necrons. All-Star. Triumph Praetorian. I think this card is very good. It's useful early game and it's useful late game. Umbral Caller Zealot. Dude, this card is good. I think this card will eventually become expensive. I think it's already $1, so I think this card will eventually become expensive. Just a free sack outlet for your creatures and artifacts and a surveil. That's like real good. Urza, Lord High Artificer. This is our one and only game changer, I think. He makes artifacts, cares about artifacts, and he does something with the abundance of mana we're likely to make. It's Urza, man. You should run it probably, I think. Virus Beetle. This one is one of the ones I had to run. I mean, it's at least it'll be impactful, ETB, make our opponents discard a card in turn 2. It's fine. Or later. Maybe we can flicker this one. Alright, and getting into our sorceries now. We have Beacon of Unrest. It was in the Necron Precon, and for good reason. Just be able to put a thing from our graveyard onto the battlefield is good. Dread Return. I mean, same thing. We want to put things from our graveyard onto the battlefield. Fabricate. Find a thing. I use the Tails one because I own this. I do try to, if I don't know if I've ever mentioned this, when I build these decks, I try to use the cards that I actually have so I can physically playtest because I prefer to physically playtest. So that's why sometimes you get weird arts like the Tails one when it does not thematically fit the rest. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to change that. There we go. That is much better. But yeah, Fabricate. Find whatever you want in our deck, basically. Reanimate, so we can get stuff back from the grave. Their name is Legion. This card is great. You can ditch it early game to Alpharael if you don't have anything else to ditch, and it's still usable, which is very good. Tragic Trajectory, the bad tragic slip, it's fine. We had to run it, and I think there are worse cards to be running, so that's nice at least. Darkness. I actually run this in every black deck that I have, mostly. May not be active in all my lists. This is a recent change for me, but yes, having a fog in a deck where people do not expect you to have a fog is very powerful. Run Darkness. Depressurize. This card we had to add. It's removal. It's bad removal, but it's okay. Displace. We use this so we can flicker Alpharael and a couple of the other creatures you saw. They all have decent ETB effects, so that'll be good for that. Divert Disaster. This is the bad counterspell we have to run, but it could be worse. Like, at least it will ramp us if they do pay the 2. So there's that. Mental Modulation. I actually do like this card. It is one of the cards that was in my pre-release kit, but I do like Mental Modulation a lot. Tapping target artifact or creature is relevant, and drawing a card is relevant. Negates. I think this was a proper add. We need to have some kind of counterspell in the deck, and I think Negate is probably the best counterspell in Commander. Most of the things you really want to counter are going to be non-creature spells. You'll just destroy the creatures most of the time, so yeah, I think Negate is the counterspell to add if you're going to add 1, which I think we did. I think we just added 1. As far as non-creature artifacts go, we have Arcane Signet for ramp, Cloudstone Curia so we can flicker our commander. It's going to be a little more difficult because we run a lot of artifact creatures and does care about non-artifact permanents, but we do run a fair amount of those, so Cloudstone Curia will still get some effect. But when it doesn't, Conjurer's Clause is there for us. We want to flicker our commander so we can use its effect. Convergence of Dominion. I kept this one in from the Warhammer one. It still feels pretty good since we've been wanting to unearth a bunch of stuff, and it does mill cards, so there's that. Cranial Plating. We'll have a lot of artifacts and we'll be able to at least make something real big and just slam into our opponent. Cryogen Relic. This is one from the pre-release, and I love this card. I don't know if I have just too much love for this card, but I see it and it makes me happy. ETBs draws a card, leaves draws a card, puts a stun counter on things, like it can sack itself. I like it. Dubious Delicacy. It's not fantastic, but it is instant speed removal for smaller creatures, and also can gain us life or make our opponents lose life. Felwar Stone. Mystic Forge. We run a lot of artifacts. I think it's something in the neighborhood of like 44 artifacts. I'd have to double check that number, but yeah, we run a lot of artifacts, and Mystic Forge is going to be very useful for us very often. Panharmonicon. We want to double those triggers of our commander, or the other things that have ETBs. We have quite a few things with ETBs in this deck, and Panharmonicon is going to do some work. Sculpting Steel. Make it a copy of anything in our deck, basically. Simulacrum Synthesizer, an absolute all-star. Kind of expensive for what it is, but yeah, this card is great. Most of the Necrons are over 3 CMC, so they'll just be making constructs all over the place. Soul Ring. Surian Dirgecraft. It flesh bags your opponents and later on becomes a flyer, and that's all it needs to do. And it was also in the pre-release kit, so I had no choice but to run it. I still would have run it. I still would have run something. I think I wanted a spacecraft in this deck. I don't know if it would have been this one, but yeah, I do like the idea of spacecraft. Talisman of Dominance, added that one in because we have blue now, and Thought Vessel. Oh, sometimes we have a lot of cards in hand. As far as our enchantments go, we're just running Biotransference so that everything is an artifact, and Phyrexian Scriptures because like is really good. You know, destroying all non-artifact creatures alone is just super relevant. All right, as far as our lands go, like I always say, I don't really worry about lands. I don't talk about lands too much unless there's something relevant to the strategy in which we're doing, and there is this time. We have artifact lands, Mistvault Bridge, Seed of the Synod, and Vault of Whispers are all relevant to bring up because they are artifact lands and we care about artifacts in this deck. As far as the sideboard goes, I have 11 options for you to replace the 11 cards that I've mentioned that were in here because they had to be for the pre-release kit, but I don't think they are very good. So we have Alpharael, the Stone Chosen, we have just a bunch of stuff from the 40k deck, and we have some removal pieces like the general black and blue staples that I did not throw in this deck because, you know, I had to fit the other cards. But overall, even with all of the weird ads from the pre-release, I think we have a really functional deck. As always, Moxfield link will be in the description, so feel free to check that out. Leave some comments there, leave some comments here. Tell me how you would have built this deck if you were building it or if you are building this deck. I don't imagine many people are. I think EDH Rec says there are 18 lists total for this guy right now online, so I'm glad to be number 19. Anyway, thank you for watching. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for subscribing. Please do that. Thank you for being a friend. Travel down the road and back again. Your heart is true. You're a pal and a confidant. And I'll catch you later.